Welcome to Broken Tweed. My name is Cheyenne Brown, and if you don't know what we do here, we are a magazine that is all about democratizing good design. That is affordable and accessible architecture, interiors, and home decor for you. So if you're interested, please subscribe not only to the channel, but to the magazine. Today I'm joined by Ore Adesoye. Ore is an interior designer at Finchatton, a property developer that is reshaping the central London residential market. With a degree in architectural interior design and experience at multiple firms, she's not only clued up on elevated design, but she also knows what's practical, which is exactly what makes her the perfect person to give us a Tweed talk. Thank you, Ore, for giving us your Tweed talk. How are you feeling?
I feel great. Thanks for having me, Cheyenne, honestly.
Thank you for coming. Thank you so much. Jumping straight in, for those at home who don't really know much about interior design, what does your work entail?
So my work is always from the beginning. We work on the concept design. So we are, of course, given like the floor plans and the brief from the client, and we come up with ideas, drawing in from inspiration from the architectural envelope, from the environment the building sits in. We prepare materials, so that's like stone, timber, glass, metal, and the soft furnishing, so like fabrics, curtain fabrics, all you can name it. And we do the presentations to the client. From then on, we then go into more detailed design. So you'd go into like, what kind of cornice would this be? What the elevations of the drawing room would be, or the joinery, and all the way through to like confirmation from the client, ordering, procurement, installation, the whole thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's very interesting. How did you get into this work?
So I did a degree in architectural interior design at Inchwold School of Design, and that's situated in Southwest London. And I did a degree there, and a bachelor's for 2 years. And then what happened was there were adverts for interns at Finchatton, and I applied, and then I got it, which was supposed to be just a 2-week internship, ended up turning into, 6 months, and then eventually me coming back to work with them. So,
Yeah, that's amazing. I guess like unexpected career from it as well. It's really cool.
Exactly, because I initially had my first degree was in business management, and it was in my final year. I decided I don't want to be in management consulting. I want to do something else more creative, more tactile, more explorative, more challenging. And that way, being able to, touch and feel and use all the senses that I have into, producing a work of art. And so I was with a friend of mine, and they said, well, why not try something like interior design or something of that kind of relation? And so that's where the journey began. I ended up going to Italy for a year and studying interior design in Milan. And then after that, going back home to intern at a furniture company, and then coming back to London. So yeah, it's been a long journey, but we got there.
I guess you said about your friend suggesting interior design, but when you decided to give it a try, at what point, was there a specific point where you decided this is for me, like this world is very much what I want to do?
Well, it was kind of like from selfish ambition. I back home in Nigeria, I would, on holidays, we'd go to like cafes and restaurants and just hang out with friends, and I would feel very frustrated about how the atmosphere and the spaces were lacking compared to places here in London. And at that point, I said, you know what, if I could, I would want to create my own space, my own like restaurant or hospitality space that's, really thought through about the atmosphere and the design, from like the type of seating to the detailing and the ceiling. It could even be like a whole tree coming down from, the earth. But I wanted it to be thought through, and I wanted to be able to create spaces where people could escape from the everyday life and forget all their troubles and just be transported somewhere. So that's when, I said, okay, I want to do that. And even if nobody ever wants to come and eat at my restaurant or enjoy my space, that's fine. I can have it for myself. So that's where like the selfish ambition comes into. But that was kind of like the catalyst in getting things started.
Yeah. You have a background in architectural and interior design. That's your degree. For someone who at home is thinking, how does that make sense? Like architecture is kind of the outside, and interiors is the inside at the most basic level. Like, what would you say to them? What is architectural interior design?
Well, with architectural interior design, it's pretty much concerning the architecture of the interior. With architectural interior design, you're focused more on the interior envelope of the space. You're looking at how you can treat the interior based on like the width of the space, the volume, the height. You're looking at proportions and scale. You're looking at the skirting. You're looking at the cornice. You're looking at the light. You're looking at everything from different angles and trying to create a space that is also welcoming and being able to make the users feel like they're at home and feel like it's their own place.
Yes, that's so interesting as well, because I guess often people make that association when they think of architecture as it's just outside, it's nothing to do with what's going on inside of a place. And then when you mention those details, like say the skirting and the coving, and then all of these other details that, especially I guess in London, in a place like London where you see beautiful architecture, and then you go on the inside and it all matches when you have similar motifs like dental molding and things like on the outside and then on the inside. That's so interesting. It's just something that, especially people outside of London and places like that, don't really think about, is the architecture of the interiors.
Exactly, because like in London, you're just surrounded by so much history, and you're able to go into these buildings and you're immediately transported into a particular time when, skirtings and dado rails were a thing, and, motifs on the ceiling were also a thing. And it just tells you about the fashion and the movements that were happening in those days. And you're able to, as I said, transport yourself to a time that you didn't exist in.
Oh, yes.
So, yeah.
Definitely. It's so interesting, especially we're seeing that so much more now with like design kind of going archival, trying to focus on design from the past. Like a lot of people are so interested in like Art Deco right now and mid-century. It's so interesting just seeing that, and especially for like period dramas. Like a lot of people are now becoming interested in Victorian and Georgian design again. What influences have shaped your perspective on design?
What influences? What do you mean by?
When I'm talking about the influences, I'm referring to kind of what things have you seen or consumed, or like what pieces of art and culture have kind of shaped the sort of styles that you like and the sort of design that you favor?
So in terms of like my personal style, I tend to gear towards more of a wabi-sabi, which is a Japanese term. And the reason why I love that is because it's about embracing the imperfection of materials. I think there was a time when everybody wanted things that were just shiny and glamorous and in some ways sometimes fake. But I love the idea of embracing, materials as they are and being able to keep the integrity and honesty of those materials. So it's like if you find a block of marble and you're not going to hone it down so it's shiny, you still get the matte roughness, the texture, or you get like a log of wood and you just cut it and it's not perfect. It's still allowing the edges to still show, so it's still being able to tell a story about the piece, or even getting a piece of metal and allowing it to age over time and change color, so then it's also aging with you as you also grow in the space. So I love that, because then it's not just about perfection, it's imperfect, because life is also imperfect. And also being able to have a house that's designed to show imperfection and also change over time, as we also change over time, I think it's a beautiful thing, because then every time you wake up you're almost excited because you don't know what you're going to expect once you touch the surface this time around. Like, oh, it's no longer black, it's kind of like a copperish color, or like green. So it's just an inviting and a wonderful experience to be able to work in that kind of design style and see those kind of things integrated into life, because nothing's perfect. And I think with society, we're just obsessed with perfection. We want to look young forever. We want things to stay the same, but nothing does. And we need to learn to embrace that things change and things aren't always going to look white. Sometimes white is going to look pink. Sometimes it's going to look beige. And just accept that and grow with it. Being flexible instead of, trying to make things too perfect.
I agree with you completely. I think I recently just interviewed a design psychologist, Sarah Sayer McFarland, about this and how she was saying when she speaks to clients about like an environmental autobiography and kind of figuring out what they really like rather than what's trending and what looks perfect to other people looking on. She said that a really big part of this was kind of allowing things to be a little bit imperfect and saying that there is something that's really important about having clutter and things that feel human, but also in just there's real importance in kind of like having things that have a bit of patina and having things that feel lived in, and she was also saying that's why people are like flocking to kind of older pieces as well, and thrifting, and now like secondhand is becoming such a big thing because of that. So you've talked about your design style a bit and wabi sabi. One of our customs is that each guest brings an item from their home that they just could not do without. What is yours and what's the story?
So I couldn't bring mine because it's quite big, lugging it all the way. But I'd say one piece that I really love that's mine is a turntable. I got it when I was, I was 19 or so, in uni, and I just loved the idea of being able to buy a vinyl and still hear like the crackle and still like the whole method of getting up and then flipping the vinyl and then putting it back on and hearing the music play. Just, I don't know, it just feels so like homey and more manual as opposed to like, putting music on your iPhone and just letting it play. So at home we have this beautiful shelf, and on the first shelf that's where I put the turntable, and beside it I've put all the different vinyls, whether it's like opera music, so I have a couple opera pieces there, or jazz music, just filling the shelves with as many as I can collect. And yeah, that's one of those pieces, but I couldn't bring it, so instead I brought this. It's something simple, but it's just a picture frame, and it was actually a wedding gift favor I got from my friends in Romania. And so the bride, she does a lot of calligraphy, and so she actually did this herself, and
it's hand.
Well, she wrote it, but then printed it.
Yes, it's beautiful.
So that's all her.
Oh my gosh.
And it was on everybody's like place setting, and you could just take it home as as a gift.
It's beautiful.
And so written on it is "Dragostea este plină de bunătate," which means love is full of goodness. And then she associated that with a peony.
Yes, yeah.
And under it says warm, embracing with generosity. So it's beautiful being able to have that, and why I brought it with me is because it just shows the friendship and the community that I have, and being able to meet different people from across the world, and able to have a piece of them with me at home. Another thing is, in my bedroom I have this wall that's just it's kind of like a wall of my life, and it has a lot of my firsts there. So I will have Polaroids of like my first trip to Barcelona or like Italy, postcards from there, postcards from visiting museums in like Paris or Austria. It's just like a collection of all the things that kind of shape who I am. So it's messy, but life is messy. Nothing's, color coded and, perfect. But yeah, those are the things I'd say make up my home, and I couldn't live without them.
Yeah. And speaking of your home as well, give us an idea of your home in terms of just like, do you share it? Is it a house or flat? And then also like, do you rent? Or is it like, have you bought it, or is it like a family home?
It's a family home, and I live there with 5 other people. 2 of them are my siblings, and the rest are my cousins. We've been there for 5 years. In terms of design, I didn't really have much of a say. I'd say it was my first time trying design before actually designing. So there are a lot of mistakes, it's like
As with every
a lot of things I would love to change and I wish I could change. If I could go back in time to when we started, I would have changed a lot. And now I still walk into the space and there's some things I still want to change. However, I do not have the budget for that. So I just leave it as it is. And I'm just waiting for, the time when I'm able to get my own place and then do it the way I want. But it's kind of like it's a family home, and it was originally bought by my grandfather, and so there are a few pieces that are his and his late wife as well. And it's just a collection of history. So when you come in, you're just like, this is a lived-in house. It's not perfect. Nothing's like streamlined. It just looks like people live here and come and go all the time. So, yeah.
But I think there's something about that even though it's not kind of the dream Instagrammable house, it's a home.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what everybody, even if they're trying to buy the most flashy things, is trying to do, is create a home. And I think that just can't be bought. It can't be bought.
Exactly.
Going on to kind of your experience in the industry, you work with properties that are kind of at the top end of the London property market. I know you talked a bit about the process of designing spaces like that, but I was going to ask, is there like a set process for every single property that you work with, or is it kind of like it can differ depending on certain factors?
I mean, there is the guideline of different stages for a project. So going all the way from like stage 0, which is like the introduction mobilization stage, until stage 6, which is handover and all that, construction, installation. So we try to keep that throughout all our projects, because we want to work mostly with design and build, as opposed to just sometimes we do have clients that say they just want furniture, but we prefer when we actually get to do like rip off the floor and rip off the ceiling, because then it makes it easier for us to be able to have a cohesive design with the architecture as well as with the like final finishing.
Yeah, definitely. Have you had to work on any like projects like abroad, and how would you say that they, if you have, how would you say that they've kind of like differed from projects in London?
I am currently working on one abroad, in Europe. Sadly, I can't see where.
Oh, no, of course, yeah.
And so with this one, it's a very contemporary building, and we're just getting to do all the exciting things we've never really had to do as well. So it's all about like pared back, simple timber paneling, but not with the molding. It's just like timber panels, and being able to use a lot of travertine, clean lines. We're also able to work with artisans in Europe, and using like beautiful finishes that have a lot of handcraftsmanship, which we don't always get the opportunity to, depending on budget. As compared to the ones in London, sometimes people are buying these homes as second homes as opposed to primary homes, so they don't want to spend as much on like the finishing. So you're just trying to fit whatever you can as possible. But even when we're sourcing things, whether it's the flooring or the ceiling or the sofa, it's still within their budget, but it's still of good quality regardless. So it's just about flexibility with what you got.
How many people are kind of involved in a typical project? For I guess people at home who might think you just kind of walk in, you wave a wand and leave. How many people would you kind of see through from start to finish?
I say that depends, because different projects take different amount of people. So from our side, we would have a project manager, we'd have someone that's the interior architect, and then we'd also have the interior designers. And then you'd also have, depending on the project, you'd also have the architects themselves, you'd have subcontractors and main contractors, you have someone in charge of the lighting, someone that's the plumber, someone that's the site manager. It's a huge team, depending on the size and scale of the project.
What do you do when there's has there ever been a case where it's like you feel that there's like clashes between what the client wants and what, say, the experts are saying is possible and feasible, And like, how do you manage like expectations for like people who kind of say, I want this thing, but it's just not possible in a space?
I've rarely been in a situation where those type of things have happened. Even if they do happen, we do explain to the client that unfortunately, because of site restrictions, maybe there was something that, because there's something's always happening on site. Sometimes you've already prepared the concept, you've done the design, but the moment you knock down a wall, oh wow, there's a column we didn't know that was there. Oh, there's this that needs to be moved, or this can't be moved. So we're always, throughout every stage of the project, you're always having to inform the client and letting them know, oh, we're going to have to make a few adjustments to what he wanted, but this is what we're able to achieve without, compromising on the overall design, and just letting them know that it's fine. Because at the end of the day, if it's not possible because you can't move a column, then what can you do?
Yeah, what can you do?
It's the building. You can't knock it down, or else it's all going to collapse and compromise the space. So it does rarely happen from the projects I've worked on. And most times, whenever we've had to change anything, the clients are, welcome to that, as long as things keep moving.
What is your favorite kind of part of the process?
I'd say my favorite part is the concept, because that's when you're coming up with different ideas and, you're sourcing for different things. Depending on what the brief is from the client, you either get to go through the, typical parquet flooring and timber and stone. If the client is saying, surprise me, then you get to use, the craziest materials, and you get to use things that you never used before, and that can be quite fun. So I love the concept phase, and then I also love the installation phase, because that's when you get to see everything come together and you're fiddling with the space, you're moving things around, you're like, oh no, this needs to tilt this way, this thing needs to tilt that way, or this, I know I said it should be placed here, but it doesn't work, so let's shift it around. And you're running around and you're, losing the calories you couldn't do on the treadmill. So it's, I like that, because then you're actually in the space and you're touching and you're moving things just so that it, sits well.
That's so interesting as well. And I guess you mentioned about like things that you thought would work in a certain place, and then actually going, no, like being able to say like, oh, actually, no, this isn't right. Do you find that there's often like this difference between kind of what works in theory and then kind of in practice, like seeing it in the space? You're just kind of, does that often happen when you're kind of like, oh, actually, no, we do need to shift this a little bit, or maybe this could do better here?
Yeah, sometimes. I mean, you can do as much as you can beforehand. I mean, now we are working a lot more with, like, we offer our clients CGI so that they get to see what it looks like in the scale and proportion. But sometimes let's say you put an armchair in one place and you realize, oh, it doesn't really work there. It works better in this room, so you just do an easy shift. Sometimes it's something lighter, like, oh, I thought this piece of accessory or this artwork will work here, but I think it's better in this room instead, because let's say the light hits it better in this space than this space, and it makes it so much better. So there's so many things that you try to do ahead of time and it works well, and sometimes it's just a few things that you just need to move around. But it's not going to be a case where you're having to run around and like order something that's on a 20-week lead time in just different place. And there's always, sometimes you can do as much as you can once you've put everything in, but again, what happens is that clients, once they've moved in, they realize they need more things or they want to replace something. And so, it takes time. So even though you said, you're delivering on this date, you have delivered, but then there's going to be like a couple more months of back and forth and additions. So.
Little tweaks and it's so fascinating as well when you're saying about like using CGI, because I guess a lot of people just make that association between like CGI in movies, but then using it in such a practical application as like using it to help stage a home. That's so interesting that like that we use these things for other things in our day-to-day lives and in the world. Is there like a particular part of the process that you find like difficult or like challenging?
I'd say it's usually when you're having to do a lot of coordination with different contractors. It just becomes a whole mess sometimes, and you're the mediator and, having to, put everyone together. It's like, let's solve it. Let's not it's not you against me. It's like, it's all about the project. We need to deliver what's the best that we can do with what we have. And then of course having to make compromises here and there. So that's usually like the very stressful part.
Yeah, I think usually whenever there's people involved, it's like
it's the people part.
Is there anything that you're surprised about in the process of doing people's homes? Like, is there anything that kind of surprises you where you're at in your journey with this?
No.
That's fine. Is there a formula to how you style a home, or would you say that every client wants something completely different in terms of the style?
It depends. I mean, with our at the company I work for, a lot of our projects, sometimes, you know, clients will approach us and say, oh, we liked what you did here. Can you do it again? And so then it's like, okay, this is a particular kind of style, which is at times it's just modern classic or modern contemporary or classic contemporary. And then it's like, okay, we already know what we're looking for. So that's a lot easier to do because we've done it many times. Sometimes clients want something that's completely their own. They want something contemporary. They want something glitzy. They want something over the top. And so you're having to do a bit more research, and you're talking to them about like, what is it that you like or what you don't like, and then like tailoring that to them. So it's mix and match. Sometimes you get clients that are not as involved, and they're just like, yeah, that's fine with me. Some are heavily involved, and of course it's their home, and so they want to make sure that, you know, they're happy with it and they're going to live with it for as long as possible. So yeah, it depends on the clients and what they want to achieve for the place.
Are there any kind of materials that you love or hate working with? Because I know a lot of people will be interested in that from my readership, because they're often looking at kind of like the best worktops for kitchens and kind of like what wood is really good for their coffee table or their wardrobes and things like that. Would you say that there's a material you love working with and one that you hate working with?
I'd say there isn't any one that I think with us, with a lot of our finishes, and of course with the clients and property that we work for, there's certain like price ranges that we don't go near because we have I'd say a very generous budget. So we're fortunate to be able to use, you know, like real marble for the countertops, and of course have those treated so you don't have to worry about stains or anything leaking in. We're able to even have like an église mirror that's inset into a panel, or like cupboards. So of course that's, you know, specialist finishing. So it's I'd say, depending on the budget, like I love stone. Who doesn't love stone? There's so many different kinds of stone and so many different variations. And even going to visit the quarries and you're seeing the blocks themselves, and you know, it's just stunning what they're able to do, and having to cut it and choosing the different pieces for different things, whether it's countertops, whether it's the floor, whether it's like a coffee table. Those are, I'd say stone, because of how varied it is. It's amazing.
I think the stone, like I saw a video of somebody, they were doing a home, like I think it was like a villa abroad or something, and they'd like shown the process of them picking up the stones from the quarry, and I was just amazed because it's so beautiful. What is your favorite in terms of like when you go to the quarries, like what type of style would you say, like you just look at it, you're like, this is incredible, if I had an unlimited budget, this would be it?
I say I love onyx. Onyx is such a beautiful stone. There was a project where we had these recessed shelves, and at the back panel we'd had onyx, and we had it backlit. So whenever the clients came in and they put on the lights, you could see like it glow. And that was so beautiful to see. I think onyx is just so precious, expensive, but gorgeous. To have.
It is, yeah. What is, without obviously telling us what the room is, because you're not allowed to say that, if you could describe like the grandest room you've ever had to work on, like talk us through kind of the process of that and like the sort of style of it. Like if we walked into the room, just describe it.
I'd say it was a living room. We had designed it to be more of like an art collector's home. and it's just stunning how like the different colors that we used, and the artwork, and the soft curves and the different types of materials like leathers and timber and mohair and velvet. And then the coffee tables as well. They had like, it was onyx. It was just gorgeous, and you could just see even when we finally took the photos, it was just very colorful, and that was something bold that we hadn't really always done before, but it just came together so nicely. Again, I think that's always the thing whenever you do design. Not everything everyone's gonna like. It's so subjective what is nice or what isn't nice. As long as you're able to read it and you're like, okay, this works well, even though it's not my taste, but it works well. That's what matters, and the clients were happy with that.
Yeah. Speaking of tastes, I've seen like there are a lot of kind of luxury spaces that use like a neutral palette, or at least like an earthy kind of really biophilic, I would say, like kind of palette where they're focusing on textures and tones that are naturally occurring. Why do you think this is? Like, why do you think that kind of the luxury interiors market is so drawn to that?
I think that came about during lockdown when everyone was just stuck in their homes, and you couldn't actually, I think only for an hour a day, you could go outside and touch the grass. So it's like, well, if I can't really, all I have is 1 hour outside, I might as well try and bring the outside in. And, blurring the boundaries between what is an interior and exterior. And so, of course, now you're seeing a lot of people having indoor plants and, having a lot more neutral, earthy tones inside, because again, nature has an amazing way of, calming people naturally. You're smelling the wet grass and your heart rate already reduces. That's why people are now drawn more to those kind of palettes. And again, those colors are just not just beautiful, but they're also pared back, because then it means that whatever you do with like the furnishing, which always changes, if you want it to change, like, that whatever you've done is going to be stable and work with whatever you have.
That's so interesting as well. Like we've seen, there's been such a push for people kind of making, especially extending their homes into the garden with like a sunroom and kind of just making it like or a summer house, things like that. But like there's been such a massive rise in like the she shed and garden offices, and even now I've just seen some like articles and ideas coming through about from PRs and different people about the rise in garden annexes for aging parents and things like that. And it's so interesting that a lot of people are trying to bring the outside in, especially post-COVID. It feels like that must have been like the catalyst for all of this. It's so interesting.
I know. What's not to like about nature?
Yeah. What would you say separates luxury design from kind of like the everyday?
I'd say with luxury design, or again, because of the budget or different things, I think coming off from the Industrial Revolution, where everything has become quite mass produced, it's, of course, because you're having to do things at such a large scale, you're compromising on the quality of the materials. And of course, like if you go into a certain store and you buy, console, of course they're using laminate or some kind of affordable veneer. So a couple moments after, you're already seeing it chipping away. In terms of luxury, it's just more about the quality of the materials you're using. You're able to work with, the best craftsmen from all over the world, Europe, South America, Africa, wherever you name it. And you're able to, they tell a story with all the pieces they create. You can see the imperfection again with because most of it's, handmade. So you're able to see like the movements, the wobbly parts, but then it's still well quality made and it will last, and you're able to pass it down generations. You also get to see where they source these materials. So it could just be a forest that's just a couple kilometers away from them, or they get to go to the mills and they get to see how everything's done. So you are more confident in where they're sourcing the materials and how they're making the item. And when it finally gets delivered to your home, you can say, oh yes, I got this from a craftsman in Paris, and this has been a trade that's been passed down their family for centuries, and so and da da da, and you can see it in the finishing and also in the way you touch it and how long it lasts. That it's luxury in itself. So I think that's always the important thing, and again, it doesn't have to be expensive. There's so many beautiful antiques, especially in England, that aren't expensive. But of course, you can still see, because of the materials they use, like it's real wood. It lasts for centuries, as opposed to like now, where it's broken tomorrow.
Particle board
and it's nice to see, like at antique stores, like people buy a piece and maybe they'll want to repaint it or resand it, and then it's given a new life, but it's still there. So that's kind of the thing with like luxury and like the everyday. It's just the quality of the materials and the kind of care that's put in, so that it has a beautiful look.
Yeah, I think that is so interesting as well, because I guess like when people make associations with luxury, they just assume instantly expensive. But I love that you're not wanting to even mention anything about cost. Like you just said, it's to do with the quality of the materials and the craftsmanship, and I love like that emphasis that you put on craftsmanship from around the world. And yeah, it's so interesting. That being said as well, do you feel that luxury, as you've defined it, like as being focused on quality and craftsmanship, would you say that it's achievable on a budget? And that can be not necessarily just buying it, but it could be like DIYing and things like that.
Yeah, I'd say anything is possible. Is of course with certain, again, depends on the materials you're using. And I know like in today's world, like real wood would cost for some people an arm and a leg, again depending on the type of wood or the type of timber you're using. So again, it does depend. Like I can't remember if it's Breccia Capraia. That's one of the most it's a very rare stone now for people to use on like fireplaces or countertops, because everybody wants it now. So again, that of course means that the price of it is going to go up. So depending on demand, certain things like Carrara is always going to be expensive.
Because everyone wants Carrara.
Or even Calacata, that's always expensive too. So it is achievable. It's just what you're looking for exactly.
And I guess it's the skill as well. And if you're going to DIY it, it's like being able to get it up to that level of like these craftsmen who've devoted their lives to this work. That's it. It's so fascinating, actually, like realizing luxury is not necessarily just about the money, but it is about, can you get really good quality things, and can you like do them or create something that is really well put together. What designs, to be a bit controversial, what designs would you say are timeless, and what would you kind of advise people against if they're not wanting something that will kind of age poorly?
I think the word timeless is kind of, it's a strange word to use, because something timeless today will not be timeless tomorrow. Design always has the styles always have a way of like following a cycle and coming back and going out. In terms of timeless, I think at the end it's more of a personal choice, and what's timeless to you may not be timeless to me. So I think in terms of defining what timeless is, it's just a matter of like personal preference. And if you're designing your space and you think something is timeless, as long as you're happy to have it for the rest of your life, sure. But somebody else may not, do that.
Do you feel that kind of like social media's like increased desire for interiors has kind of changed how your job is done, but also like the industry? Because I know like now there's such a like at the kind of everyday level, there is such an interest in interiors that there wasn't before, post or pre-COVID. People just weren't really into it as much as they were with fashion and beauty and other areas. But now, because they're faced with their homes, unlike anything else now, and the third space is kind of disappearing, they're now in a place where they kind of have to confront their home and their home design. Do you feel like that's kind of changed the market and how interiors and kind of property works?
I'd say yes. I mean, Instagram, TikTok, it's made the whole landscape of interiors a little more accessible to everyone. You're able to see, different hacks on, okay, let's say you want to build in joinery in your library, but you aren't able to afford a bespoke one. So you can easily go to IKEA, put, a few pieces together and then build around it. And then there you go. You've done it for a fraction of like getting, joiners. It's also made it easier for people to be able to see inspiration from like Architectural Digest or all these other design magazines. And also designers are able to easily publish their work without having to, do it on a magazine. You just see whatever is on their account. And it's easy for you to like grab inspiration and information, but also it can be quite an overload as well. But it's amazing what people are doing all over the world, because sometimes you're just so isolated in what's happening here that you don't get to see all the beautiful designs that are happening in like, southern Spain or even like in Mexico, and the materials they're using, because of course the architecture and, the climate is there. It's like so stunning. It takes your mind to like a different place. And also it helps in, pinning ideas for new travel destination and, why not? So, yeah.
Yeah, it's so interesting. My first guest was actually, she's a travel and food writer for Tapper, and she was talking about this, like that people should travel because it also does give you so many ideas, and there's so many different design styles that you're just not exposed to at all.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think that there are so many locations like that because people haven't traveled to them or seen them or been exposed to them. And I guess social media has helped us to see a lot more of the world that we couldn't see. They can't feel and touch and see certain things. Like I always think about, for me personally, my trip to Florence. I'd never really been around Italy properly. I've been to Milan when I used to kind of work more in like arts and culture and women's magazines and fashion. But it was actually in going to Florence and like seeing, I was in this Airbnb that I was like, oh my gosh, this stone fireplace is gorgeous. And being able to feel it and see it and see the difference in that compared to like what you were saying, poorer quality things that have the look from afar, but are like particle board and don't really have that same atmosphere in a way.
Yeah. Exactly. And like now, of course, people want the look for less. So you'd see tiles that have 3D printed marble patterns on it. And it doesn't, you can tell, you're just
it's
like,
not the same.
Especially for some of our clients, they're like, no. Of course, sometimes there's like compromises where I think there was a project. Of course, the client wanted marble all over, but because of the structure of the building, it wouldn't hold the weight of real marble. So of course, we had to go for like tiles.
Yes,
instead.
yeah.
But of course, it still had a nice look. But again, there's different things.
Tricky, yeah. That's really interesting. Like, how do you balance kind of the practicalities with what you'd really like? So in that case, really wanting marble, but actually going, would it be able to support the weight of the marble? And I guess that's like the challenge as well. Is like, how do you still get the luxury product when it's just not practically possible?
How do you get the luxury project? Again, with so much innovation and design happening, there are many ways in which people are able to get the look that still works. Sometimes people use, there's this process called honeycomb, where, for example, you actually do get the marble, but then it's quite like, it's a very thin layer, and then you just have like the backing behind it just so that it's lightweight, and then you can see.
So it's kind of like a veneer, like how with some things they have like wood veneers, but for marble.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. I've never even heard of that before.
Yeah, that's sometimes like even for vanities, like if it's the stone is really heavy, so of course for the front you're gonna have to have the honeycomb to support the real stones so that you can still pull it.
I've seen like a massive market for these things. Like, I think for me, I'm seeing it a lot with like lighting. Like a lot of people where it might not physically be possible for them to rewire a wall or put lighting there because there's just pipes and things behind that wall. They'll have kind of like rechargeable bulbs. And now they make bulbs of every kind for every type, like B's and E's and all of these for kind of these, for your hardwired lighting, but it's not hardwired. And it's pretty good. Like I was really surprised that they offer that. And it's just so interesting seeing, in a way, like you were saying about design becoming more accessible, and therefore there's more of these options when you want the look, but you just, even if you had the budget, you can't do it. Anything's
possible in today's world.
Oh yeah, definitely. Are optimistic about the future of interiors?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'd say that regardless of what happens in, now or 5 years time or 10 years time or 20, 30, there's always going to be a market for it. And especially being in London, like there's always going to be people buying properties. I mean, you look around right now, there's so many developments happening, so much scaffolding going up. And, of course, we're always wondering like, who has the money for all this? But somebody does. So there's always going to be people wanting to, work on their interiors. There's always going to be people wanting to buy a home. There's always going to be people wanting to move homes. There's always going to be, it's just like taste. Sometimes when you design something, you decide you want a different look or you want to try something else. So there's always going to be, it's always going to be there regardless.
Yeah. And then what are you most excited about in your own life?
It's not even design related, but I'd say right now I'm considering, studying like theology. So I'm going to go to seminary school hopefully by the end of this year. So that's kind of like in a different direction from what I'm doing. But it's an exciting thing that I'm looking forward to.
That's so exciting.
And then also, again, something fun is traveling this year. We're hopefully going to Thailand with the family. For a couple of days, so that would be nice to be able to travel to that side of the world and again embrace myself in culture and amazing food and amazing weather and just sleep all through. So yeah, it's those are the things I'm really excited about.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Ari, for giving us a Tweed talk. It has been amazing just to pick your brain on luxury design, but also just to learn about kind of what you do and kind of the process of really making a great design for a home. It's just been amazing to actually get to understand your profession and also your own personal style. And I just love how you describe wabi sabi, because I think it's a term that's floating around so much at the moment, but it's just like people kind of just think it's just something that looks a little off and they don't realize it's a whole philosophy about life and aging and accepting life and allowing your things to move with you. I think that's so, it's just amazing. So thank you so much.
No, thank you for having me, Shane.
A big thanks to all of you at home who have watched to the end. Thank you so much. If you really genuinely enjoyed it, please subscribe to not only the channel, but the magazine, which will be linked below. And tell us in the comments what you enjoyed about this episode. If you didn't like it equally, please also comment and let us know. I read every single comment and I really appreciate the feedback because it's how we grow with Broken Tweed and with Tweed Talks. And subscribe to the magazine again, please, for more on this topic. Come back next month for our next guest.